Hello, everybody. In just a second, we'll get started with episode 15 of Show Choir Nation.
And there he is. Will, how are you?
Good evening. Good evening. I'm doing all right. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired. I feel like the eclipse kind of threw me off today with how dark it got really fast, and then all of a sudden I was like, I have like how many more hours to do with my day? I still have to keep doing stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm kind of in that like limbo mode right now. But I mean, we're here.
yeah. The weird thing for me is that, like, I was so far out of the path of totality that there was no really noticeable change in sky color where I was.
Really?
Yeah, really. And
Yeah, because from like an hour from us, that's where it's like total totality or something like
I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, it happened, whatever.
that.
I'm sure sounds super callous, and all the show choir people from Indiana up through Ohio and down to Texas, where the path of totality was. I'm sure I'm gonna get blasted for that. But just for my part of the country, I was just kind of like, okay, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, from all the other media I saw, it's pretty cool. Like for what it was worth, like for all my
yeah,
friends and from our Indiana guys who got pictures, it was super cool.
for sure. I do notice you're not in the usual studio today.
No, I mean, I'm back home. So kind of funny because some of my classes canceled for the eclipse. So I was like, hey, might as well stay home for the weekend, get Monday off. Yeah, I'm taking advantage of it all the way. I went and saw the eclipse, so I saw the sky slowly get darker, like just like a tad, and then it was like, okay, that's it. We saw a little dot in the sky. We're like, hey, that was worth skipping class for.
That's incredible. I mean, the internet went out at my college today, and they still didn't cancel classes. I don't know what kind of college you go to that they're like, oh, the world is going to end. Let's cancel classes. And at my college, the world actually does end, aka the internet goes out and classes aren't canceled.
That's funny.
Regardless, we'll see if Adam pops in here or not. I don't know if he was going to be able to make it tonight or not. But we'll get rolling here real quick. This is Show Choir Nation, the premier podcast of the Homeroom Show Choir Network. And folks, this is mid-April show choir, but mid-April show choir is just as good of show choir as the rest of the season for show choir. And so we have got some results to dive into right away. All right, now that we have, I guess, multiple comments on it, we'll take a dive off the show sheet real quick, and we'll just talk about some pertinent homeroom show choir news. And so we talked a lot about show choir madness on last weekend's episode, not last weekend's episode, last week's episode. Maybe I shouldn't have gone to class today, but regardless, the first two rounds of show choir madness happened, and we did have a little kerfuffle in the second round. We had two schools that both had pretty absurdly high vote totals, and Ethan, I don't know how much you are at liberty to say here, but you know, homeroom show choir does show choir madness for the purpose of creating unity within the show choir scene, and when it devolves into essentially cheating on stuff and sending nasty messages about people. Number one, we see all of that and we know things, and it's very, very hard to get stuff past us. And number two, we see who's doing it, and it's just super, super unbecoming because we see programs that had really great seasons, and then it's just certain individuals from those programs or even just associated with those programs choose to act in a manner that's super unbecoming. And so, Ethan, I don't know if you want to say anything else about that.
Yeah, like we said, this is the fifth year we've been doing it, and it's probably this happened multiple times. I mean, throughout all 5 years, we've had instances of this, And I mean, it's tough to keep track of. I mean, neither Will or I or anyone on our homeroom staff can constantly watch polls for 24 hours. And when they used to be 48 hours, we of course we couldn't do that. But in this case where both schools were above 20,000 votes, you kind of knew that something wrong was going on. Um, and it's just like honesty. And when when I saw those poll numbers, it had me looking up numbers of football stadiums, just for fun, being like, well, my college basketball arena only holds this many people. It's surpassed it by like 30,000. And I was like, well, that, no offense, it's impossible. Um, yeah, this is supposed to be for fun. And people who want to scoop low enough to cheat and maybe rob people out of opportunities and a fun little thing that we do, I just don't see the point in it. I mean, you win some, you lose some. In the end, all Show Choir Madness is be like, oh, hey, we won Show Choir Madness. It's not like you're getting crowned champions or it's like you're getting an award or it's
We
like
don't send out a trophy
no, exactly.
because
So there's
show
it's
choir's not about the trophies.
no, exactly. So it's just kind of just for like a pride thing. And if you feel like you have to cheat, I don't know if what it's worth anymore. And like you said, it does kind of shed a negative light on them, on the programs. But again, it's not entirely the program. We know there's just a few bad apples out there, and they make it seem worse for everyone else. And I do feel bad for the people in the two programs who voted fairly and with honesty, and then they had to get kicked out. But you know what? I'm happy for Huntington North. They get a second chance, so it's going to be kind of cool to see if they can stick it out. I think they're going up against Attaché, so that might be a little tough task. And I don't know where those polls currently stand, but congratulations to Huntington North getting back in it. And yeah, we just need to remember that this is just a fun little thing we do, and no one should be going above and beyond the of the polls to try to edge their choir out.
Right. Yeah. The one thing that I think you spoke really well about is how certain individuals, by choosing to make these decisions and pursue this course of action, they then put their entire program in a pretty negative light for a lot of other people to see, because we do get low thousands of votes on each of these polls, and so when other people go in and they look at schools that it's pretty obvious even to the naked eye that there's something afoot, and they may not have had any other experiences with that program. You only get one first impression, and unfortunately in this situation it's a little bit of an unsavory one, and so we hope that the irregularities will stop there. And we have the Sweet 16 voting going on right now, so if you're watching this live, you can head over to homeroomshowchoir.com/blog, and the voting article for the round of 16, I can't say a trademarked phrase, the vote for 16 is the first post available there. And if you're watching this show retroactively on either Spotify or on YouTube, just go to homeroomshowchoir.com, go to the blog tab, and then click on the Show Choir Madness tab to see what round of voting is currently open. So with that being said, we do still have some results. They didn't just go away because we decided to sidetrack off the segment. First off, we have got some results tables from America's Top Hat. Show Choir Canada was this past weekend. In the community group category, in first place, the Music Academy of Western New York Shout. In second place, Fame School of the Performing Arts. And in third place, Strike It Up Vocal Motion. In the high school category, in first place, St. George's G Major. In second place, Pickering Euphonics. And in third place, Beaconsfield Crescendo. And in the middle school division, first place, Western New York Music Academy Roar. And second place, All Saints Flair. First of all, I just want to give you a question, Ethan, and that is, what the heck is a kilometer? Because we had American choirs win 2 of the 3 divisions at Show Choir Canada.
Yeah, America the Beautiful. I saw like one. I think there's like only like 2 comments on the page, and it was like funny to see someone from New York win Show Choir Canada. It's kind of awesome. But yeah, go USA. I have you ever heard of community groups and then high school groups and then of course middle school groups? Like it's spread out like that per division.
Yeah, so Canada, their education system is pretty different than the American education system.
Mm-hmm.
And so ever since the genesis of Show Choir Canada a little bit over a decade ago, there's been a healthy contingent of community groups. I think that they were just kind of interspersed, I think, in kind of different group sizes. And I think that's how they did the divisions for a while. But then the pandemic really took a big hit on this event. And so there were only 8 total choirs performing between the 3 divisions, and 3 of them were from New York. So you actually only had 5 Canadian choirs. And I think this is year number 2 that they've done the community groups in a separate division. I know this is definitely not at all what it used to be in terms of community groups. I know Milton Community Group was a staple for a long time. I know KW was another group that was a staple in the community group category in Canada. So I would say, whereas in the United States, the community group show choirs are much more the exception rather than the rule. I think ETC immediately comes to mind, right? Decatur, Rip Decatur, but Decatur in its later years, kind of like that. Our California friends with long memories may remember Celebration Entertainment Academy. That is another one that made some waves back in their time in the show choir world. But besides that, and then I think maybe DeKalb in Georgia, but the community group show choirs are much less of the proportion of show choirs in America than they are in Canada. So, and then yes, I have heard of it, but I think it's also very easy to get caught off guard by that if you're not familiar with Canadian show choir.
No, yeah, like you said, I knew I know community groups, but of course they compete in the tier 1 with school sanctioned show choirs. So it was kind of different for me to see, community groups only, and then, high school groups. But yeah, there was a community group winner, and that was Western New York Shout. If Unionville was here, I had them in my 1. I don't know where they ran off to, but if they weren't my prediction, I guess everyone would just slide up, and I think I did a pretty good job on it. So yeah, shout out to the New York groups. I think that's awesome. St. George G Major, before this, I really didn't know how the division shaked out, per what I said earlier. But of course, they won their division. They have a pretty outstanding excellence of winning their division here or placing high. So big shout out to St. George G Major. And yeah, that's what I have on Show Choir Canada.
Yeah.
You go USA, though. USA.
It is just really, really tough because you spent so much time last week hyping up Unionville, and you were so sincere and so enthusiastic.
I was like, you know what? I was like, I did research on this group. I went in on this group, and I was like, you know what? This group has got it. And I was like, I even went back to stats against when they gone up against the host group here. And then I was like, it's like, oh, this is their shot. They got this. And then poof, results come out. I see no Unionville. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. And I know you had Mount Zion to win Waltham, but your parlay just busted big time.
Yeah.
Still didn't even show up to the competition. Folks, don't gamble. Whether you're under or over 18, don't gamble. It's a bad idea. We're talking about figurative parlays. So yeah, I think Unionville would have been in the high school division. I don't think they would have been in the community group.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think they would have beaten St. George's because, like you said, St. George's historically they do have a very good record here. But I think they probably would have been a second or third place choir in this division. Like you said, it is just I don't know if it's unfortunate that we didn't see Splash, or if not, seeing Splash just kind of opened it up for everybody else. Because if Splash is there, then they're winning the event, signed, sealed, and delivered, to quote a popular show choir song. And I'm still split on, like, it's tough to see them not competing, but they did still perform an exhibition, and so some other groups got a chance to shine. And I don't know if I need to have an opinion on it necessarily. It's still just super interesting to see, and I hope that hopefully this is kind of the low point for Show Choir Canada, and that we can get some more groups going in the future.
For sure.
The only other major competition in the, I guess, North American region, because I can't say America because we just covered Canada. In the North American region was the Waltham Eastern Show Choir Festival. The Main State Show Choir Festival also happened this past Saturday. I guess they have transitioned to a ratings-based system and not a placing-based system. And so it's kind of like solo and ensemble. You go there, you perform, you get your rating, but you don't know how the other groups did unless they either just post the ratings or you ask somebody. But there's no definitive first, second, third, fourth, whatever. So that leaves Waltham as the only other competitive event that we are going to cover for last weekend. In the large mixed division, first place with best vocals and best choreography, the Mount Zion Swing Stations. In second place, Tatasqua Encore, and in third place, Shepherd Hill Fantasy. In small mixed, first place was a group that Ethan had never heard of before last week, the Natick West Street Singers. In second place, Leo Minster Ignition, and in third place, Dartmouth Dynamics. And in the single gender division, first place with vocals and choreo, Mount Zion La Femme. Second place, Mount Zion You've Got Mail, and third place, Shepherd Hill Illusion. So we were all kind of talking about Mount Zion as the out-of-region traveler, and they cleaned up nice. They cleaned up very, very nice. Vocals and choreo for swings, as well as a win in the large mixed division. Vocals and choreo for La Femme, and a second place for You've Got Mail. They were unbeaten, and it's hard to walk into a competition with three groups and be unbeaten by anybody else besides your other groups. But
Yeah.
they did that, and I don't, obviously the host group Waltham, I think, would have given Mount Zion a run for the money in both divisions. Daniel Hand would have given him a run in the large division. South Windsor, I think, would have given him a run as well. And so while it wasn't the toughest New England field that we've seen each year, I think it's definitely an accomplishment that we can give Mount Zion their flowers for.
Oh, for sure. Fantastic season. They ran a pretty tough gauntlet this season, which is kind of funny because that gauntlet might have been only like 3 competitions because those 3 competitions were just so stacked. Yeah, but congratulations to my alma mater, Swing Stations, getting the job done. They won so many captions I couldn't even count. But the surprises to me here, Tatasqua in second. Coming into this competition, I thought Shepherd Hill might have this the second place spot, but Tatasqua really came out and they showed out that they're a force to be reckoned with. Shepherd Hill ends up in that third spot in their division, which of course is no slouch spot. And then yeah, I'm not doing my homework last show on Nanick, and here we are. I get my test results, and Nanick wins. So congratulations to Nanick. I thought everything else lined out pretty nice with Leo Meister and Dartmouth following behind him. And then another surprise was Mount Zion You've Got Mail getting second behind their female choir, La Femme, because I thought Shepherd Hill Illusion, again, was super good group. Same with Lowell. I think I had Lowell above them before coming into this because I just didn't know how they would take You've Got Mail. But again, You've Got Mail is such a fun show, and I know up northeast you don't see a lot of men's choirs. So when you see a men's choir and they're just having so much fun on stage because they can get away with a lot more than female choirs, that they can come up and steal a top spot like that. So congratulations to Mount Zion. Congratulations to all the groups here because their seasons are now over. So yeah, congratulations to the Northeast. Congratulations to Mount Zion on getting the job done.
And congratulations to you on earning yourself a session with a vocal coach to figure out how to pronounce town names in the Northeast. So we promised ahead of next season, Ethan's going to be better.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm
going to
trying.
be better, and we're gonna work with him. We promise. The other thing that I wanted to talk about here was Tatasqua, and while I have not had the opportunity to see their show this year, from what I hear, it's in a very similar vein to Piqua show last year, and Piqua's show was a You'll Never Succeed in Show Choir show, and Tatasqua's show is kind of a what is show choir show. It's one of those meta shows that we see every once in a while. It's a show topic that is much too deep for beginning or smaller groups to take on, and yet it's just a little too much of a touchy subject within the upper echelons of show choir, where you need to have the sweet spot of a group that has the numbers to accurately portray the story, to have the skill level of the performers to be able to perform a storyline like that. But then you also need a leadership team that's willing to take a step back and maybe laugh at themselves a little bit and say, okay, maybe we don't need to take this too super seriously. Maybe we can, poke a little bit of fun at our art form. And so this placement for Tatasqua, I think it's a really great cap to the season for them, because it's a group that has made steady progress throughout the season. In the early portions of the season, they were mired behind a lot of groups. And so now we get to the end of the season at Waltham, and they are the top finishing New England group in the large division. And I think that's a great sign of things to come for them. And I think that it's just one more mix-up that we've seen in New England this year. By the time mid-February kind of rolled around, we're like, okay, we're like Daniel Hand just kind of has this one on lock, and then South Windsor starts winning, and then Waltham starts winning, and then we get here and we're like, oh, Shepherd Hill's going to have this, and nope,
No.
Tosca's going to have it. So it's just been a season of parity in the Northeast, and so I really do appreciate that as well. Got to give a shout out to Natick as well. Got my test results back for small mix; they're looking pretty good. So. Yeah, that is the cap to the New England season, and we will see everybody in New England back in only 7 short months for the Oliver Ames Bay State Show Choir Festival in mid-November. Moving on to the bridge segment, Ethan, we are just coming off of talking about a group who rolled into a competition from a very significantly different area of the country. And they may have done some touristy things in the area of the competition, but then they went to the competition, which is run by a local school in the area, and they competed there. And so that raises the question, along with us talking about the famed Show Choir National Finals here in a little bit, is it better, and you can define better however you want, is it better to travel out of region to a tough competition, one that is perhaps located near a major metropolitan area, although it doesn't have to be? Or is it better to travel to a national competition where you're going to have the experience, where that's just kind of factored into it? You know that it's going to be in a destination location, but on the flip side, you may be in only a 3 to 5 to 7 choir field. I think Show Choir Nationals notwithstanding, that's its own event. The prestige of that event will continue to happen for probably as long as they decide to run the thing. I'm talking more so in the vein of FAMEs and HOAs. And so I think, first of all, what was your personal experience with this?
So basically, every end of the year competition, besides my senior year during COVID, we would go to, in my junior year, because of we were supposed to go to nationals. That was like our big go to a tough competition year. But besides every year after that, we kind of went out of region to go more on a trip to then try to win a easier or to go up against tougher choirs. Luckily, we ran into tougher choirs in those fields like Daniel Hand, Waltham, of course HOA Orlando with LaSalle, John Burroughs. So we ended up just by happenstance running into tough choirs on fun trips. So I am more of a let's go up against a tough choir, because I always want to see where we are at the end of the year. Because where you are at the end of the year, that should be your best show. And you always want to see where you're going up against groups you never usually go up against. So when you're going up against the LaSalles, the John Burroughs, where you're probably like, we're probably not going to win this, but let's go out there, let's have a blast, one last show, one last ride, one last dance. Let's go do it to the best of our ability, and let's just remember what we did all season long to get to this point. Whether we make finals or we don't make finals, we are going to have so much fun on that stage against tough competition. But I also get the other side of it. So my last year in 2021, we went to Troy Buchanan. Troy Buchanan, for my last competition, wasn't a stacked field. And of course, all the competitions were flipped because of COVID. But we kind of wanted to go to a competition where it's like, let's send the seniors off on one last. Let's go and try to get that W. Let's go and try to send them off on the hillside with whatever they have left. And that was a blast too. I love the destinations. And to me, Nashville, where it's only like, I don't know, is it like a few hours away from me or so?
That's a good question. I can't answer that question.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I can't. But that to us is a let's go against competition comp. Let's go and see where we're going. Now, instead, for example, Mount Zion going to Waltham, that's more of like, a destination. Let's go to a destination. Let's go have fun. In 2019, we did the same trip, but to Andover. We still ran into some tough competition. I think we ended up getting third. But it was so funny because you could tell as soon as they said the grand champion, we run off into the homeroom. We change. We throw everything into a bag. We're not hanging things up on costume racks. We're not doing, putting them in the drawers or whatever. We literally just throwing them in bags. We throw them into the into the back of the bus, and we just zoom out of there as fast as we can. And we ended up in Times Square at like 2 in the morning, all just sleeping on the bus. It was like that's something I'll never forget. I'll never forget being on that bus after, a part of me was like, man, we should have got placed higher. Man, we should have done this, But no, we our frustrations out on the bus altogether, and we were like, you know what? Let's just have a heck of a trip. Let's go. We were actually supposed to go to like the St. Patrick's Church right after at like 8 a.m. And we got there at like 3 a.m. at the hotel, and we were like, nah, we can't do that. We are not doing that. But if I had to give a definitive take here, I'm more of let's go up against the best groups possible for a final trip. And luckily, in my 4 years, our destination trips ended up being tough competition.
Well, I first off just want to say that you're missing out because St. Patrick's Cathedral is one of the defining
Yes,
architectural.
I know.
Take away the whole being a church thing. That is, yeah, and some people find value in that and some people don't. It is one of the definitive architectural structures in America, but I also don't expect high schoolers to necessarily value that as much as myself, a very cultured college student who is, of course, very far removed from his high school days. It's a joke for anybody listening and not watching the video. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because I was in a choir that wasn't good enough to justify really either of these things. We were invited to the FAME National Finals my freshman year, and we were out of money, actually. So we blew through the budget that season, and that was that. But it's super interesting to me because I look and I do see a lot of pros and a lot of cons to both sides of them. I think one thing that I've heard multiple times this year is that just if you decide to go through an organization like a FAME or an HOA, it is just so much of a monetary expense that you really, as a director or as a creative, you have to do some hard thinking and be like, okay, is this performance opportunity and related experiences enough of a benefit to justify this cost that's going to be so much extra fundraising and things like that? And the flip side of it is, well, you get what you pay for, and what you get is a really good experience a lot of times. Sometimes you'll have a national competition in a hotel ballroom or whatever, but I think those are much more the exception rather than the norm. Oh boy, I don't like that smile you have.
Yeah, well, I competitions in a hotel ballroom, I've been there, done that. Never again. It's so bad. No offense, but I mean, it's experience. Sometimes you just have to go through it. But yes, carry on. Sorry.
And so, on the flip side, it is very tough, I think, if you're in a program that needs administrative approval to, let's say I'm Petal and I walk up to my administrators and I say, hey, I want to take all the kids to Marysville, Ohio. And your administrator looks at you, where? It's not, it's not New York, it's not Orlando, it's Marysville, Ohio. And sure, there are places around Marysville that you could go, but you're not parking the bus in Marysville and then doing things in Marysville for 3 days, with all due respect to that city.
Yes, same thing with Brandon going up to Chesterton. Exact same thing. It's like you ask your Brandon administration, we're going up to Chesterton, Indiana.
Well, that Chesterton is at least, it's like within an hour of Chicago, depending upon the traffic.
Oh, true. Yes.
Because it's right on the Lake Michigan coastline. So that one I kind of see, because it is kind of on the outer ring of southwestern cities, southeastern cities outside of Chicago. And so the other thing is that, is it really worth the effort to plan an entire trip to go halfway across the country and not, make your own itinerary, find your own hotel arrangements, and estimate that cost so that you can give everyone a number to hit, a year or year and a half out. Whereas with the companies, they just give you the number, and then you can pass that number along to the kids and say, this is how much you need to fundraise, or whatever share of that they may need to do. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens next year in terms of, we're coming off a year of relatively weak FAME and HOA fields. I don't think that across both of those series, I don't think there was one really standout event that people could remember off the top of their head and be like, that was a really stacked lineup.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like of the late 2010s HOA Orlando caliber or anything like that. Whereas we have kind of seen a rise in people going places. We had Petal going up, we had Brandon going up, we had Jackson Prep going out to California. Last year we had Wheaton Warrenville South going down to Petal? Question mark?
Maybe. I think so.
Somewhere. I'm drawing a
Yeah.
blank off the top of my head, but it's not just a Southern groups go places. It's a
Yeah.
West groups go places too. And so I think next year will be a very pivotal thing, and it's crazy because we talk about what if Show Choir Select happened in 2020? What if Summit Nationals happened in 2020? What if the Winter Park Ski Music Festival happened in 2020 or 2021? And then we would have even more options in this market, but that's just not where we're at right now. And so I think that if I had to choose one, I think that just simply not having done either of these and having such a small amount of knowledge on it, I think that I would probably choose going to the national competition, just because while I do agree that while the end of the season should be your best run of the show, I think that as we stretch into some of these competitions that are like very, very far out on the end of the season for some of these circuits, even like Show Choir Nationals was like a long time afterwards for some of these choirs, especially like the Iowa choirs that wrap up pretty much by the time that March starts. Yeah, that's still a month away from the end of the regular season. I think you also do struggle with burnout, and if it's just kind of like, guys, we're going to a super tough competition, and it's going to be mostly a business trip with a little bit of unwinding afterwards, I think you might struggle with morale a little bit too. And so I think that I would lean going towards the national competition. And for my locale, I would have to look back on what we said our hypothetical HOAs would be a few episodes ago. I forget all of the possibilities that were tossed around. Maybe Salt Lake City. That would be an interesting one. Unfortunately, the A's are playing in Sacramento for the next few years and not Salt Lake City. So
So that won't happen.
Yeah, because hey, if it's late enough in the year, you could potentially catch an A's game.
That'd be cool.
I'd to play in Salt Lake, but that didn't happen, and we will close the book on that. Ethan and I are split. Ethan says go to a competition, maybe close to a destination where you're going to get a lot of choirs, and I say, you know what, head to that national competition. So with that being said, we do have one national-ish level competition going on, and that is the Fame Show Choir National Finals. This is in Branson, Missouri, this upcoming Saturday. And in the competing groups category in the women's division, we have Nevada Treble Effects and Sparta Rise of Adrenaline. So Nevada from Missouri and Sparta from Wisconsin. And then in the mixed division, we have Prattville Spotlight from Alabama, the Nevada Sensational Singers from Missouri, Sparta Upstage Adrenaline from Wisconsin, and Toma Limited Edition also from Wisconsin. And Ethan has a lot of stories a lot of times, and mad respect to him because he's earned those stories. But it's finally my turn to have a story because three of the six performing groups here are from Wisconsin. So I do want to take a nice little moment in the spotlight. I can't call it a victory lap because that's why we do the competitions. We don't know who's going to win yet. But if you look at the overall grand championship count, as for the groups performing here this year, Wisconsin leads the field 4-0. Toma has 3 wins so far this year, and Sparta has 1 win, and nobody else in the field has an overall win. And I'm super proud to see both of these choirs go. It's been 5 years since Wisconsin has had a choir go to the Fame National Show Choir Finals, and bless Colby's hearts, but they didn't place that year. And so I'm really happy that Wisconsin got 2 cracks at it this year, and both of them look to be super stout. Toma is 2-0 versus Sparta this year. They beat them once in January and once in February. But this is a month after Sparta's last competition and pretty much a month and a half after Toma's last competition. So it is quite out of the season for both of these groups. I think there's plenty of room to make up gaps or things like that. And honestly, I'm just really super proud of both of these choirs. Both choirs have grown by leaps and bounds this year compared to where they were last year. I think that if I had to pick a year for either of these groups to go, it would be this year, because I think this is the best that both of these programs have ever been. Both of these programs are having program-defining years, And if Toma can pull off a fourth win here, it would be something that, unless you're Onalaska or La Crosse Central, it simply does not happen in Wisconsin Show Choir to have a 4-win season. I think Janesville Craig had a couple here or there, but Toma would be in pretty rare company if this were to fall their way for a fourth win. Ethan, what does the rest of the field look like?
So this is kind of a weird competition because, like you just said, majority of these groups have been off for almost like half a month or close to a month. So it's kind of like throwing a dart at a dartboard and being like, okay, who wants it more, or who's actually been practicing hard, or some people have already been thinking about the summer or graduation, or even if they'll be in the group next year. I mean, that's just how it goes. So it's kind of hard to really tone in so far after your last competition. So I mean, I probably have to give it to Toma. I think Toma will really want it. Their Popeye show, I feel like Popeye show's been going on forever now. It's kind of crazy how Wisconsin starts so early and we're still talking about Wisconsin groups. So yeah, shout out to them, and of course you, Will. You must be a proud Wisconsinan right now. So, but I'm actually gonna have them in my top two spots. I'm gonna go Toma and Sparta in my top two, and then maybe a surprise. I'm gonna have Prattville in the third spot. I feel like Nevada might fall a little bit in this competition because it's so weird where they land in this area. Because all we know really is Toma and Sparta have gone up against each other. So the rest of these are kind of like I said, throwing a dart at a dartboard. So I'm gonna go Prattville in the third spot, and then I'm gonna go Nevada, and I'm gonna go Sparta girls, and then I'm gonna go Treble Effect splitting Nevada's both groups to round it out.
Yeah, I will. I will actually disagree with you here. Nevada, I also think is one of the most interesting choirs here, and it's more so simply because of the circuit that they compete in. The Missouri circuit, specifically the more southwesterly part of it, is dominated a lot by groups that have multiple potent programs. And so it's not uncommon at all to see a 6 choir finals made up by 3 schools, because 3 different schools will put both the mixed group and the girls group in. And so if you're not in those probably 5 or so programs that are consistently able to put 2 groups in finals, it's really hard to make finals. And so the fact that Nevada even has 1 finals appearance this year, I think is a big win in that category. This is a program that has been really solid for a long time in Missouri, and I think this year you see their competition record. It's littered with first and second places in division, along with the occasional finals appearance. Prattville, I think they're definitely a growing program. This is year number 2 with Patrick McCormick, but they tried their hand at big competitions in Texas. They competed at Keller Central. They didn't make finals there, although you do have to be really good to make finals there. I think that Prattville, I think it's really good for them to be here, but I would be shocked if they finish anywhere except 4th in the mixed division.
Yeah, that's possible. Like Nevada also has a really good girls group, and Sparta also has a really good girls group. So you
Yeah.
can see Sparta up in top 3, maybe at most.
Well, I don't think they
Surprised,
score
but
them together. Yeah, because I think last year, 2 years ago, there was only 1 women's group, and they still didn't score it separately. So, or they did score it separately, excuse me. They didn't score it combined. If you're going to score it combined, you're going to do it when there is only 1 group in the division. So I think especially with 2 groups in division here, I think they're just going to let the women's division ride as is.
mm-hmm.
We're going to move on to a competition that is actually only about 2 to 2.5 hours away from the famed National Show Choir Finals, and that is the Jenks Trochella Show Choir Invitational. This is the second year for the Jenks competition. They had tried to get it off the ground a couple of times in the 2010s, never made it happen, and then they were finally able to make it happen last year. So it was a little bit of a mild-mannered affair last year. Broken Arrow, who is just across the Tulsa metro from Jenks, they're pretty much next-door neighbors. They kind of came in and cleaned house. Pleasant Hill was there as well, and those were the only 2 schools that put groups in finals, because I think you had You had 2 groups from Broken Arrow and 3 groups from Pleasant Hill in finals. This year, it is a much more diverse and competitive field. You have Lexington Southern Accents from Oklahoma, Joplin Sound Dimension from Missouri, Carthage Soundwave also from Missouri, Fort Worth Southwest Effect from Texas, and Broken Arrow Tiger Rhythm from Oklahoma in the varsity division. In prep, you've got El Dorado Springs Sound Collage from Missouri, Kabul Rhythm and Blue from Missouri, Hugo High Notes from Oklahoma, Broken Arrow Tiger Momentum, Ferris Yellow Jacket Singers from Texas, and the Mustang Backstage Broncos from Oklahoma. And then in the single gender division, the Lexington Testosterone, Joplin Touch of Class, Carthage Sweet Sounds, Broken Arrow Tiger Mystique, and Lexington Pitch Slapped. In terms of finals, nobody really has posted anything publicly about what the final structure is. I would assume with this many groups, they are going to take 6 finalists. Still TBD on whether you can put multiple groups in finals or not, but I would assume that with its close proximity to Missouri and the fact that you could put 3 groups in finals last year from the same school, I would assume that that would be the case again this year.
First off, Will, you just rapid fired those names, and those are some of the most unique show choir names. So when you're just going off, I'm like Yellow Jackets, Broncos. I'm like, oh my god, you're just spitting right now. And we're like Broken Arrow. I'm like, oh my gosh, Backstage Broncos, what? No, but it's kind of impressive for you to just like keep going without skipping a beat. So applause to you on reading the schools there. I feel like this is Broken Arrows to lose. We both saw them at Wheaton, and they both had a fantastic show. They missed out on finals because, of course, it was Wheaton. But their show, it's like it's almost a must-see show. It's completely different from maybe any other show I've seen this year, where it's like there's no costume changes, and it's just their choreography is completely different. Off the top of my head, I forgot their choreographer.
Braxton Carr and Lexi Robson.
Yes, they did amazing work with this. I literally just sat back and I was like, these ripples, these layers. I was like, just the blocking in general. I was like, this is something I have not seen in a while. That's not like, of course, a La Salle or a Center Grove or something crazy like that. So I think this is Broken Arrows to lose. But you can't count out Joplin Sound Dimension. They're also a very solid choir. And like we just talked about it, they're in that Missouri area where they usually have really good years, and they usually get multiple groups into finals. And I actually have if they're allowed, for now, I have their girls group in finals. So going down the list, I'm going to go Broken Arrow. I think it'll be a sweep. And I'm going to go Joplin Sound Dimensions. And then I'm going to have Carthage splitting Joplin's groups. Carthage is a group that's always been sitting in the middle of the pack, but they're always a very solid choir whenever I get a chance to see them. And I'm never disappointed by their shows. I think they have a chance here to grab a podium spot. Could it be a little bit of a reach? Yes, but I think they could have the ability to do it. And like I said, I have Joplin's girls in 4th if that's how it plays out in divisions. And then I have Fort Worth Southwest. Oh my gosh, did you just hear me? Did you just hear me?
I did.
I don't even know how to explain that. Okay, Fort Worth Southwest. I'm just moving too fast. I have him in 5th, and I'm gonna have Broken Arrow girls rounding out Mystique at the 6th spot.
Yeah, this almost feels like a destination competition as well, because Tulsa is just kind of sandwiched in between a thriving southwestern Missouri scene and a Texas scene that I think is going to explode next year. I think a lot more people are going to learn a lot about Texas show choir next year. Mm-hmm. But then you also have a cadre of Oklahoma groups who perhaps go to a couple festivals that don't really hit the mainstream at all. And so you have Lexington, who I think is the most hidden men's show choir in the country, the Lexington Testosterone. Nobody knows they exist. I think they are the most secluded men's show choir in the country. They have the same name as a couple of other men's groups, but that's okay. And Southern Accents, the mixed group, actually won an entire competition at Hollister in Missouri earlier this year. So I don't think they're going to make finals here, but they're a very solid program as well. Hugo is an entirely new program out of Oklahoma this year. Mustang, the Backstage Broncos, they won one of the Oklahoma City Metro festivals last year. So Mustang is a program that I think will make some noise in the prep division as well. The 6 finalist spots, I hate to say it, I'm kind of like sorting things out, like, okay, who do I think is going to make finals here? And those final spots went fast. I mean, this is not a competition where you're like, okay, well, we've got some Oklahoma groups and some Texas groups and whatever. Fort Worth Southwest as well. They were leading at the end of the prelim round at Rouse a few weeks ago. And so this is a group that has much more recent onstage experience, and they have the taste of victory in their mouths. And it was swept away by the Keller Blue Lights in finals. But I would not count them out either. I will concur with you that I think this is Broken Arrows to lose. I will go Broken Arrow Tiger Rhythm at the 1. I will take Carthage Soundwave at the 2. I will take Joplin Touch of Class at the 3.
Love this.
I will go girls group over their mixed group. Fort Worth Southwest at the 4. And then I will give Joplin Sound Dimension the 5. And then Broken Arrow Tiger Mystique at the 6. And I'm still leaving out Carthage's girls. I'm leaving out Lexington. I'm leaving out Mustang. And so it's very, very good to see a second-year competition in a state that definitely has a few festivals, Edmond Memorial, Santa Fe, Duncan, that exist. They don't really hit the mainstream, but it's good to see some of these choirs hit the mainstream here. And hopefully this is the beginning of a renaissance for Oklahoma Show Choir. Another shout out to their middle school division as well. They've got 8 middle school choirs, including a couple from Texas coming up. So a very, very solid middle school division in the morning there as well. Moving to the East Coast for a little bit, we're going to talk about the North Carolina State Show Choir Finals. In the high school division, this one on Saturday, Red Springs, West Brunswick, Huff, Lake Norman, 2 groups from South Granville, Lee County, and Voyager Academy. Ethan, you're the story man. Do you have stories about any of these show choirs?
I think Voyager hosted Manchester Swing. They hosted HOA Orlando 2018. I think it might have been Manchester. But
I think Manchester, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's my only story, is I thought that maybe Voyager hosted. So I don't think I've ever gone up against these choirs, but I've heard of some of these choirs, especially Voyager, of course, and I've always loved the Howling Huskies. Every single time I see that name, it makes me laugh a little bit because they're like, "Oh, what's our school mascot? Probably a husky." Oh, they howl. Perfect. I love that. That's perfect. But so I'm just gonna run down my list because, of course, I don't know much about North Carolina Show Choir, and hate me if you want. I'm from Illinois. I'm sorry. But I have to go Voyager because they're a very strong choir, and they always run up against the tough groups there, like Capital Swing and from Virginia. I'm gonna have Howling Huskies in my second, West Brunswick in my third, and then after that, I don't know much. I really don't know much. So I kind of let on the community a little bit, even though I think there's only like two. I think there's only 2 predictions on the community site because we're at the end of the year, so that's just what it is. I'm actually gonna put Lee County in the 4, South Granville in the 5, and I'm actually gonna have out of state show choir Lake Norman rounding it out.
That's not an out of state show choir.
Is it not?
No.
Oh my! Did I just?
It's the North Carolina State Finals. This is not Show Choir Canada. All of these groups are from North Carolina.
To everyone who's listening on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, I am so very sorry. My face is very distraught right now. So because you can't see it. Yeah, but give me Lake Norman rounding it out. I think they have a good shot of making the top 6 groups here. So Voyager and Howling Huskies are going to be, and Voyager in the 1, Howling Huskies are going to be in the 2, and riding on my podium is going to be West Brunswick.
All right, yeah. Your gut intuition about Voyager Academy hosting something is actually right. Voyager Academy was scheduled to host their own Bull City Blast in 2020. It was the weekend that COVID canceled everything. But the lineup, they had Manchester, Powhatan, Kecoughtan, Huff, and Osborne. So mostly Virginia groups, but they did have Huff as well because Voyager Academy is in northern North Carolina, where the Charlotte area where a lot of these other show choirs are. And unfortunately, COVID killed that. We were 1 weekend away from having the first non-North Carolina Scholastic Association show choir competition. And then their director, Jenny Hobgood, who was running that, She departed at the end of the 2021 season, and so that was basically dead in the water. She's at South Granville now, and so she has
No.
2 choirs at this event as well. I mean, Voyager has won the past 3 state championships. I can't bet against them. The only head-to-head that we have from these choirs, because the state finals is the only show choir competition in North Carolina this year, Voyager and South Granville went head-to-head in the same middle mixed division at Manchester earlier this year, and Voyager did beat South Granville by 3 spots in that division. So, surprise, surprise, the group we expect to win has a good head-to-head record. So it doesn't teach us a lot, but it does teach us something. I will have Voyager at the 1. I'll go Huff at the 2. I'll actually have Lake Norman at the 3. I've been super impressed with them dating back even before the pandemic. I think they're generally one of the best show choirs in North Carolina that doesn't compete out of state all that often. And then I'll have South Granville at the 4, and then anything after that, I'll just kind of chuck my hands up in the air and say whatever happens, happens. So good luck to all of the show choirs in North Carolina, and someone is going to walk away as the state champion for the rest of the year. Our final competition that we want to cover is the John Burroughs Music Showcase. So this one, another one of those huge, ginormous, massive California events. Ethan, if you thought my reading of the Jenks Trochella groups was, I am about to knock your socks off right now.
All right, here we go.
In the Advanced Mix 1 division, Los Alamitos Sound Effects and Burbank in Sync. In Advanced Mix 2, Helix, HLX, Chaparral Platinum Effects, Bonita Vista, The Music Machine. In Intermediate Mixed, Golden Valley Melodies of Gold, Oceanside Soundwaves, Los Alamitos Connection, and Carlsbad Sound Express. In Novice Mixed 1, Martin Luther King Legacy, Monterey Big Song, Saugus Blue Heat, Esperanza Reverberation, Carlsbad Purple Rain, Western Sierra The Alphas, Apple Valley Sensations, and Los Altos LA Dynamics. In Novice Mix 2, Valencia Just for Show, Eisenhower Ike Singers, and Granada Hills G-Notes. In Advanced Women's, Burbank Blue Impressions, and Los Alamitos Soundtracks. In Intermediate Women's, Bonita Vista Sound Unlimited, Oceanside High Seas, and Los Alamitos Exquisite. In Novice Women's, Diamond Bar Diamond Tones, Apple Valley Sun Deviliers, and the Eisenhower Ikettes, as well as Western Sierra, Sierra Serenade, and Los Alamitos Accent. And in the men's division, Los Alamitos Extreme and Helix TBH. That is 32 high school choirs. Thank you.
Good job, Will. I'm impressed. I can't read that fast. My reading level is not up there. So, congrats on that.
So now that I've read you all of the groups, what storylines stand out?
So, my storyline is who's going to win. Oh my gosh, what tier is it? I'm just looking at. Oh, tier 3 kind of catches my eye a little bit because I feel like there's a certified winner in there, but I don't know if I can count on someone or count on one group to actually win it because Oceanside Soundwaves is a very good program, and I know that they used to be up a little bit in a few tiers in the past couple years, I think, and now they're down in tier 3. But Carlsbad's always been good. Golden Valley, I feel like they're always in top placements in their division. I can't get away from them. But of course, then you throw in Los Alamitos Connection, and I don't know how many times they've competed this year. I'm guessing is that just straight up their prep group?
Yes, I believe it is their top mixed prep group.
Yeah, because I always get so confused with every group that they have because you list off a million of them, and I'm kind of all over the place. But yeah, of course, you have to look at the biggest storyline. We have 2 of the big 3, so you call it, competing against each other. Burbank gets a shot at Los Alamitos. Los Alamitos hasn't performed in a while. Same with Burbank. So it's kind of like, well, who wants it more? And I think Los Alamitos is going to come out with it. I think it's them and John Burroughs up for the 1-2. We're still waiting to see how John Burroughs can do against. I think they'll all go up against each other later in the year at Oceanside. I believe it's at Oceanside
next week.
Yes, that's next week. So then that one, of course, catches my eye. Tier 2. I feel like these 3 choirs always go up against each other, so I feel like it's going to play out how it always goes. But I mean, when looking at one division, there's so many groups in the tier 4 division. But if I had to make my best bet, just look at it how it is. I know Granada, is it Granada Hills?
Yes.
This is why you read the choirs, because it would take me literally an hour to do this. I think the G-Notes are a really, really good choir. I also know Eisenhower also is a very solid choir. Same as Esperanza, Apple Valley.
Oh no.
But I'm gonna go my top choir here is Blue Heat. I think this is Blues Heat choir to win. I don't know. I'm just off of historic things. I'm trying to remember because I always remember Blue Heat winning their divisions. But a division this big with so many choirs, and me knowing only so much about Los Alamitos, California show choir, it's always just a shot in the dark. I feel like I have these glasses on where you can't see anything. Like the only thing you can see is the sun.
Bro
So,
actually has his eclipse glasses at the ready. It's not
yes, I
coming
do.
back again for a while. You can put those away.
Yeah, so a shot at that division, but I mean, I feel like Blue Hills. I should have done more research. I was running late, but I think Blue Heat will win that division from the top of my head. But if I wanted to run down the top two divisions, I think it's Los Alamos. I'm going to go Burbank following. And after that, I'm going to go Bona Vista, Charpol, and then I'm going to go Helix. I think those are going to be in the top two divisions. I think that's how it's going to play out.
Yeah, well,
I'm not
circling back.
ready for what you have to say about what I said because this is just another example of last week. So, yeah, this is the Nanic 2.0. 2.0 on Nanic West.
Yeah.
Or West Nanic.
So I do think Los Alamitos will win the Advanced Mixed 1 division. Advanced Mixed 2 is super interesting to me because Helix is a choir that doesn't compete a lot, but when they do compete, they definitely make their voices heard. And so that's a very interesting dynamic to have in. Chaparral and Bonita Vista are both programs that are kind of on the ups a little bit. So I honestly, I don't have a prediction for that division, to be honest with you. In intermediate mixed, I don't know if Oceanside was up a couple divisions in past years. I think they've generally been in intermediate mixed for a while, or even novice mixed. I think they may have even moved up a division recently. I think Carlsbad is the choir you're thinking of that they up a couple divisions because they were, right before the pandemic, they were kind of the leading choir to unseat a third member of the Big Three and or make it the Big Four. Unfortunately, some personnel changes there, and so they're down in intermediate mixed right now. But that one is another very interesting one. Los Al Connection only has competed once so far this year, and that was at Burbank. That was over a month ago. So it's one of those deals that we were kind of talking about with the Fame National Finals of like, it's been a month, right? But this is still, I guess, kind of mid-late regular season for California choirs. And then SCVA on May 18th is the postseason, which, I mean, a lot of people are pretty much out of school by that point. But that's a story for another time. Connection is actually the second and bottom mixed group that Los Al has. They have 2 mixed groups, a men's group, and 3 women's groups. So I guess it's technically their only mixed prep group, which is a super interesting dynamic to have. But that one, I do think Los Al Connection will take it. I'll have Oceanside at the 2, Carlsbad at the 3, and Golden Valley at the 4, although I think this is definitely one of the more competitive intermediate mixed divisions you'll see throughout the year. In terms of novice mixed 1, I'll actually ride Esperanza. Esperanza is still a very new program. I mean, Mark Myers only resurrected that program a couple of years ago. Michael Klein is the director there now. I believe they're undefeated in division so far this year, and I'm going to ride with them to the top of this 8 choir novice mixed 1 division. Other than that, I think that it's really kind of a toss-up. Apple Valley is a program that expanded to 2 choirs this year, so they're riding some momentum. I think Carlsbad's prep group, I think Carlsbad is a program that's a little bit on the ups. Saugus is another program that you pick to win. I don't think they'll win. I think they could contend for a podium spot. And then you have a couple of choirs in here that don't compete very much. You have Monterey, which is a Northern California choir, so they have quite the long drive. And then you have Western Sierra, which doesn't compete a lot either. So it's just a very interesting division. In terms of novice mixed 2, Ike was a pretty dominant force for a long time in novice mixed. I don't know if they've had a personnel turnover or what the deal is, because they've been super streaky this year. They'll win the division one week and then they'll be 6th in division the next week. So just from consistency's sake, I'll pick Granada Hills here for the win, and then Ike and Valencia. And then in terms of the women's divisions, that is way too far out of my wheelhouse to pick, and it is 701. So we need to put a wrap.
Saved by the bell. Saved by the bell.
Yeah, we should probably get our California guy Chris Mendoza on here next,
for sure,
because Oceanside is even bigger than Burroughs. So we're probably going to need to be bailed out by someone who knows what they're talking about. So
yes.
With that being said, if you hopped in late, this show is available on Spotify and YouTube, so make sure to check it out there. Show Choir Madness is in full swing, as we mentioned at the top of the show. So be smart, only vote once. But do vote, and do vote all the way down the ticket, and Google some choirs if you've never heard of them before.
For sure.
I love people learning about choirs. And we do have something else coming on the site that we've done in the past, and we're going to do it again this year. And we're very, very excited to roll it out. So that will be before the end of the year. I see Fort Worth Southwest actually just joined the chat. So one final shout out to Fort Worth Southwest as they go and compete at Jenks this year. Thanks for dropping by. Really quick, unfortunately, this is the end of the show. So for Ethan, I am William, and have a great weekend of show choir, everybody.